We have PK from Georgia, theist. God exists and God is the divine solipsist. Should God believe in God's self? Hey PK, how you doing? That's an interesting question. You want to elaborate a little bit further on that?
Absolutely, and thank you for having me. Just quick check, y'all can hear me, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Fantastic. So hopefully Trinity's still listening because I just want to let them know that you can totally believe in God without believing the claims of man about God. So I'm gonna I gave
That's
myself
an
some notes. Just
interesting hold on, that's an interesting thing. What claims of God do we have that didn't come from man?
all of the look at every religion. They have claims about what God is like, what God wants, what God has or
Mhm.
has not said, where God has
Uh-huh.
been, or the gods, or however.
Okay. And where do those claims come from?
People who want to control other people mostly.
Okay. So you just said that don't follow the claims of people about God. What other claims are there? I would say that 100% of all God claims come from people.
Absolutely, do your own research, sort of thing. It's one of those like this is kind of baked into like the notes I was taking. So like for example, I don't believe in theism. I don't because
So you don't
I
believe
feel
in
that
theism.
correct. I believe that theism is the belief in religions, and you can believe in God without believing in
So
religious claims about God.
so you don't believe
And
in
not
religion. Like we're already our terminology is already diverging
I
because
understand
theism
that
is belief in a
entirely.
God. That's the
Mhm.
colloquial term of that. Are you trying to
Right.
No,
redefine
not
theism as the
necessarily.
belief in
Theism,
religions?
theism. So I understand deism is a belief in there can be an impersonal deity, right? Eric, that you would say is
I
that's
can
how I use it. Is the deism is this like the idea that there's a God out there, but that God doesn't care about us and doesn't interact with our universe, and that's virtually impossible to. Theism, is generally the label that we give on a God that interacts with our universe.
believe
Is
in a
that
God.
PK? Is
Go
that
ahead.
so? Eric and I are obviously even we can't get agreements on terms amongst the two people hosting the show. So PK, you're gonna have to give us some definitions, I guess.
Will do. So yeah, a lot of it does come down to interventionism, but like when I say like there's a difference between theism and deism, theists believe that God interacts a lot and intervenes a lot. Deists, it can be a spectrum. Like I don't view deism as strictly like a clockmaker argument or something like that, or like God said go and then step back because like in my prompt, this is going towards a solipsism that technically gets more in line with like blend Gnosticism, Hinduism, and Isaac Asimov's The Last Question. I believe you said you guys were sci-fi nerds.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, yeah, like it goes into like a lot of what Trinity was worried about. As comforting as it would be for hell to exist and pertain to only the objectively worst of humanity would be great. But I'm going to so many different hells that I've lost count. Like I don't believe in religions, but I've had experiences, and some of them were like imagine blending Terrence McKenna, um, Paul Lafferty, and Alex Gray together. So it's a lot more in that vein. Like it seems like I've gone through some sort of like pseudo reincarnation situation where I was supposed to learn a lesson and I failed miserably. So it seemed like I went back to a checkpoint. And I would have these conversations where people would just look at me and say, "You're not supposed to know that." And I'm just over here like, "Yeah, but I've been through this like 5 times already. Just let me move on." Um, and it also
Wait,
like
so you're talking about deja vu type situations?
no. Like I get like if that's a common point that we can relate to, then sure. But I'm talking about like I find myself here again. I'm having these dreams. This is all real somehow. And so I know what's about to happen. I act accordingly, and then I can get through that situation. And it's usually related to some sort of trauma. Like I went through a trauma, and then I had to keep going through that trauma until I could get over it, sort of thing.
So
Or get over it,
wait,
get
so
through it, and past it.
you said checkpoint, so you're making like a video game analogy, and that you just keep replaying the same level over and over again?
That is very much where this leads to, with God being the solipsist, or player one, if you want to put it that way. or how did I put this? Like a type like, and God could just be like a God level entity, like on a type 7 civilization on the Kardashev scale. You know, God's just playing with itself, puppet to game characters to AI to robots to Borg to Cylons until it's just like the machine, and then God's the programmer, developer, and main character.
Is anything you're talking about here is like these are your experiences, these are your attributions of your experiences? Is there anything way to demonstrate that your attributions of these experiences are verifiable and correspond to reality in any way?
I cannot prove that I may or may not have done a lot of this before.
On the
There
flip
is
side,
that.
PK, on the flip side, if you're wrong about any of these things, how would you determine that?
I'd find out about it at the end because technically this does like
Like at the end
God
when you
being the
die?
divine solipsist doesn't really change anything.
So at
Like
the end, you'll
hopefully,
find at the end when you die?
yeah,
Is that
it's
what you
sort of one of those like maybe where ideas worth keeping around.
all right.
Or like
So
as you were saying earlier, like did you feel any pain or bad things before you were here? Well, what if there was a before we were here and a while we're here and then a while we're not here and then after that and it's just a phase change sort of situation.
so so
Like I'm
PK,
totally fine with that.
so your answer to Paul's question, when Paul asked you, How can you demonstrate or verify any of this?" You said, "You don't have a way." I just asked you, "How do you falsify it?" You said, "I don't have a way until I die." So you're
Oh no,
positing
sorry.
things that
Yeah,
are
no.
that I neither verifiable nor falsifiable. How is this not just wishful thinking, fanciful thinking?
Just just like atheists, you know, when you die, you don't know what's going to happen if anything happens at all.
But I'm not making
Is
any
that fair
claims
enough?
about the supernatural. That's the difference. You're making claims about a
Well,
supernatural that you can neither demonstrate nor falsify.
like that's it. I'm not even necessarily making claims about a supernatural. I'm adding it to the list of natural. So, like, imagine that is existence exists, and then God is effectively just kind of the consciousness, like kind of a like what was that Bohm quote or Bohme or like I think you've heard this before. It's like God is a binary fractal self-replicating algorithm, and that the universe is a genetic matrix resulting from the existential tension created by its desire to know itself.
Yeah, never heard of
Which
any of that. Sorry.
it's a
that
fun
that is
concept.
such an esoteric, far out there edge
Hmm.
idea that I don't think I've ever considered it. And again, how would you verify or confirm, or how would you falsify?
Well, I mean, it can
Because I
only really be done personally, and it's like so. Imagine God is playing with finger puppets. We're all just finger puppets because God got bored, made one puppet to talk to, and eventually had all the conversations. So had to start over. Had two hands and two different sock puppets, and then eventually got down to the toes controlling mannequins. Blah blah blah. We're all just
all right.
finger and toe puppets at that point. Like it's God
All
is
right.
talking to
So,
God
so
himself.
PK, so PK, I'll ask one more question. Depending on how this question goes, we'll either end the call or keep going. Is
Fair
there
enough.
anything you can claim or tell us that you believe is true, which we can talk about? Because we can talk about all kinds of fanciful stories all night long, and it gets us absolutely nowhere. It just wastes time. So, is there a belief you can demonstrate or provide an argument for that's actually true?
I am in the same line of thinking as Terence McKenna, in that there are substances on the planet where you can break through certain veils,
That's a yes or
if
no
you
question,
will.
PK. PK,
Oh,
that's a
yes.
yes or no question. Can
Oh,
you
sorry.
provide us
I thought,
anything?
yes.
Yes or no question. Can you give us anything, a claim, a belief that you can back up with some evidence or an argument? Yes or no? So was that yes?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
what
Okay,
is it?
go for
Yeah.
it.
No, it's a yes.
Please,
Sorry.
please give us that
I,
belief.
yeah. So I believe that there is a God level entity that you can experience through either very specific kinds of meditation and or ayahuasca, sort of
Drugs.
sort of experiences that like break it down, and people have, and Terence McKenna studied this a lot, and likewise other scientists, to where people would tend to go to certain experiences, realms, situations, scenarios, sort of thing. Like he would talk about like self-mutating machine elves that want to like just go through you and give you energy, or not energy, information, stuff like that. But there
Hold
is,
on.
Yeah.
PK.
Yes.
So the thing you believe is that we can alter our brain chemistry, we can alter our brain state through drugs or through meditation, and have experiences. That's your belief that you're pitching to us.
Shared experiences that other people report the same thing. It's like, I went to this place.
Yeah,
This is
yeah,
what it was
but
like.
okay, cool. Shared experiences can point merely to the fact that we share most of our genetics, right? We're mostly the same creature with very slight variations. So different drugs, different things are going to give us. We're going to experience similar things.
I think
What
all
would
of
that?
us I think all
Go
of us
ahead,
have had a
Rich.
dream of falling, or a dream of going out in public not fully dressed, or a dream of our teeth falling out.
Mhm.
Like we have shared experiences, because as humans generally we're all the same. We're all wired the same. We all come from the same pool, the same species. So we have naturalistic explanations for these experiences you're describing, PK. Experiences that you invoke through meditation, or you claim people can invoke through meditation and drugs. So how do we verify that this is actually pointing to a God and not just these shared human experiences Paul was just describing?
Because part of my premise with God being the divine solipsist is that this is all God stuff. If
That's the
for
premise.
just
We're asking.
So you're
illustrative.
defining. So wait, PK, you're just defining
Yeah.
experiences as God.
No, I'm defining God as like a level below existence. So existence just is.
Okay, so
It just is.
you're just.
Don't know how it started.
So wait, so if I'm acknowledging existence, by your definition, I'm acknowledging God.
In a common parlance, yes, because we're having this
So
conversation.
so you are just relabeling God. So when I say existence and you say God, those are interchangeable in any given sentence.
Outside of existence, for existence to be like, God couldn't create existence because then there was a point, and it wasn't time because it wasn't changing, but there was a point where God didn't exist. So for a God to exist, existence has to
Okay, but
be.
you didn't answer my
I told the
question.
screener it was convoluted.
You didn't answer my question. Existence and God are synonymous in
Yes,
your view.
up
So
into the last step.
so
Because
you have defined God in ironically you've defined God into existence by making God synonymous with existence, because we can demonstrate that existence exists, and if you just relabel that to be God, you've really done nothing,
well,
right?
but
Like you've done nothing.
how do we how do we prove that we're actually like existence exists with a capital E, and we're not just figments in the imagination of some god
What?
class entity? Could be an alien.
Okay,
Like
no,
that's
no,
what.
but hold on. But if we are figments in a godlike entity, do we not exist as figments as a godlike entity?
And it would seem like a reality to us.
Yeah. So
Hmm.
you haven't escaped anything. You haven't escaped my question in any way. If there is no useful distinction between the word existence and between the word God, then you've added nothing to any conversation, right?
Except for giving away out of religions in a sense, because
But
we so like the fractal part, like
I don't need a. But we don't need a way out of religions. You've given no utility.
Yeah. A god
yeah,
could
it's more
exist
of
and
a
all
thought
religions
experiment.
be a god could exist and all religions be false. The religion's like not even part of this conversation. You've made God
Yeah.
claims about reality, how to access this God. And then when we ask you for reasons, you say, "Oh, it's one of my premises," on which I think you mean it's one of your presuppositions. Correct me if I'm wrong. Because if it's not a presupposition, it's one of your premises, that means it must be the conclusion of a different argument.
Yeah, it is more of a conclusion. It's like based on
Okay,
weird shit I've experienced.
weird shit you've
It
experienced.
So
So we're
you've
back
oh yeah.
to
experienced stuff. You've experienced stuff. You
yeah.
are attributing. That's what I asked. Feels like half an hour ago. It probably wasn't. Uh, you know, where I was asking for evidence for your attribution, not for your experience. Like I'll grant you every experience that you want to claim,
Mhm.
And then I'm just saying, why should I accept your attribution?
Mostly, I'm just pointing out that things are weird. There's something going on, and if
Say, say
whether
PK,
you
please.
like,
PK, please
like,
answer Paul's question there. Paul asked you a
yeah,
very specific question.
sorry, I'm used to different formats of live streams. The presupposition is that, again, man's been lying about God, so there is just a God in
I
only in
asked,
terms of
I what
common
I
parlance,
Yeah.
and
PK, to remind you
Yeah.
what my question was, is why should I accept your attribution of the experiences?
because you may have experienced similar weirdness.
But then I would
You
have
may
my
have.
own attributions.
You
That's not really
definitely would.
you understand that you understand that's not an answer. Your appeal to that I may have experienced the same thing in no way answers the question, how how can we how can we rely on our attribution to that experience?
Because so many have experienced the weirdness. And
No,
again,
but you understand. No, but
this
it doesn't matter if it's ubiquitous and universal. If we've all experienced something quote unquote weird, that says nothing about the attribute what we're attributing the weirdness to. You've thrown out like all kinds of different. You haven't even thrown out a single theory for what we're attributing it to. You seem to be very fluid on that. So I mean, Eric, I'm kind of I
Yeah.
don't feel like we're making any headway here.
Yeah.
I feel
I'll
like
ask you.
PK said it was a thought experiment, and I guess thought this isn't the thought experiment show. This is
Yeah.
what do you
Well,
mean
that's the thing.
wise?
We cut through that about 5 minutes ago when I said, okay, we're talking about things that are not verifiable or falsifiable. Can you give me, PK, a belief that you can verify or demonstrate or give us an argument for? And I don't think we've seen one yet so far. But we've kind of zeroed in on, okay, PK, you're justifying the existence of this God through personal experience. So I'll ask you this last maybe set of questions, and then we'll call it good. PK, do you think that people can just hallucinate and their brains can just generate imagery experiences that don't actually map to anything real? It's just a generation of their brain. Do you think that's possible? Do
absolutely.
you think it happens? Okay.
Yes, sir.
How often do you think that? So we have 8 billion people on the planet. Just
Hmm.
ballpark it. How many experiences do you think like that happen every day? Just ballpark it.
I'd say about 8 billion.
8 billion. So you think maybe every person on the planet has one experience that doesn't map to reality every day? Okay, I'll take it. Why not? I would go for a far smaller number, but I'll go with okay, fine. Maybe at one point every day, every one of us experiences something that doesn't map to reality. You're saying you have an experience that does map to reality. It maps to the existence of a God. So my question to you is, from my point of view, from Paul's point of view, how can you show us that your experience is real, actually does map to reality, while the other ones don't?
Because it's not it's a logical progression, because I like the part of not believing in theism, like I'm totally open to a multiverse, an omniverse, and then just like a topology verse where
PK,
it just
you're
becomes
throwing
recursive.
PK, you're throwing lots of words out there. I just asked you, how do I differentiate between the two? How do I know you're not just some guy tripping balls on some drugs somewhere?
Because most of it had nothing to do with drugs, but that's okay.
You mentioned drugs as
And
part of the process.
I did, that is a way of getting there, and
Okay,
meditation is a way
what's
of
your
getting there
okay,
without
fine.
drugs.
Fine. I don't want to mischaracterize you. What's your way of experiencing this?
Mostly the meditation.
Okay. So do you think lots of people can meditate and experience things that don't map to reality?
Yeah, things that don't map to reality,
All
sure.
right. So how do I
But
know
it
that's not
seems,
happening to you? How do I know
but
that's
it's
not happening to you, PK?
because what I'm saying is there are certain practices, like certain breathing techniques, to where people seem to go to the same area, spot,
I've
like
fallen
not even
asleep and
necessarily conclusion.
I've fallen asleep and I've had the dream that I was falling. I've fallen asleep and I have the
Hmm.
dream where my teeth are falling out. Other people have too. I think Jason Jones in chat said, "Thanks a lot for reminding me about those dreams, Eric." I'm sorry, Jason. I do it all in the work of the Tooth Bunny. But PK, like you're not giving us anything to work with here. You understand that, right?
And I appreciate your time, sirs. Keep up the great work.
All right.
Paul, I love
You
your
have a good day,
stuff, and
PK.
not everyone who doesn't believe is a leftist.
All right. Thank you, PK.
I
Any
also
closing thoughts there, Paul?
no Well, so many, but I would just leave it as I'm always amused that people think I'm a leftist. That's okay.
Yeah, I think I think there's trends, but obviously your religious standing doesn't really have
Yeah.
much influence.
Um,
Use correlations, not causation. So we
right.
do see
I
trends in the
mean, a lot of this
country in
maps
different
to
countries, but go ahead.
there's like he could have gone like there's near death experiences where people have common things. There's all kinds of hallucinations where you get commonalities of the qualia, as it were, right? Like commonalities in qualia. If that's what you've got, you don't need anything supernatural to get there. So as we talked about, we've been around that drain.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for the call, PK. Catch you later.